A couple of weeks ago, we talked about creativity, and so I think we're going to kind of look at the opposite end and maybe see
How
how.
data helps us photographers,
Yeah, yeah,
or
for sure.
frustrates us photographers. Sometimes having a bunch of data is annoying,
Yeah,
but most of the time it's helpful, I
yeah, for
think.
sure.
Yeah.
I can think of one example when I was switching camera systems. I've looked at how many times I shot under f2 in Lightroom, and it was like 1% or a little bit less even. And so, when I was making my new lens purchase, I actually went with the Badises, and that kind of helped me solidify.
That you didn't need to carry as heavy of a lens, you didn't spend
Yeah,
as much money and stuff. I
yeah,
think that's kind of one of the coolest things about Lightroom is Lightroom not only can you edit your photos on it, but it's a database
yeah,
and it has a lot of information that's useful. Like I do the same thing. Like every year at the end of the season, I'll go back through that season and I'll look through the metadata for my highest picks, like whichever photos I made have gotten a 4 or a 5 star on. I'm
yeah.
like, this is the best lens. This is the coolest lens for me and the camera setup I want to use, and I'll know that data, which if in
Yeah,
a non-computerized world, that data would be
yeah. So
impossible
maybe
to
you
have.
look at your whole portfolio there, and then you can just pull up your favorite images and be like, I shot this at f2.8 or whatever
Right?
you shot
Yeah.
it at, and then you
Yeah.
notice you're there just a little bit more.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Or which lens I liked best for that situation, or which lens camera combo I used the most. There's
yeah.
so much data that you can gather out of Lightroom. It's so helpful.
Yeah, I think data can actually help you think a little bit more rationally sometimes. So, as a freelancer, sometimes you might be sitting there for like waiting for emails or why am I not getting emails right now? And then it might stress you out a little bit. And I used to have that problem a lot when I first started wedding photography. So I'd be like, oh my god, I had like a slow week, and then I'd be like stressed and like felt like a lot of pressure and just trying to figure this all out. But then what I
Make
do
sure you book
lately.
enough gigs.
Yeah, yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. But so it was kind of like this constant thing, just kind of wearing on me a little bit. But then nowadays, if I have like a week where I don't get like an email about an inquiry or something, I can reference it to 5 years of data, so I can be like, oh, like I shouldn't actually be too stressed out right now because of. I'm able to see how many emails I got a couple years ago or the
Or
last
like you
year.
could use like maybe like the Google stats on your website and be like, oh, last year I was this busy, and
Yeah,
that this year I'm this busy, and the season before that I was this busy. So this is just normal for this time of year. I don't need to be
yeah,
stressing. I just need to be focusing on doing what I
yeah.
keep doing and not try to overthink it too
For
much.
sure. I think that there's a couple of great ways to, gather data digitally as a photographer. So Google Analytics is great. You can compare two different periods. You can even set up like certain screens that reference a goal basically. So like anytime somebody sends you an email, you
Right.
can
Yeah.
actually see like the data of like how well your website's converting and
And you
stuff
can
like
like
that.
build a funnel so you can see like how they got there and what other pages they're using to get there and stuff.
Yeah,
That data is
exactly.
really helpful from a
Yeah,
like
some
a
of my
business.
favorite analytic stats are exit rates. So like if
What
I
page they left on?
yeah, exactly.
Like, I don't know.
Yeah, so if I have a blog post and it says they left this blog post 50% of the time, and it's like, oh, I should maybe move that featured wedding down a little
Yeah,
bit.
maybe people aren't jiving with that
Yeah,
one as well.
yeah, 100%. And
Yeah, you wouldn't have known that otherwise.
yeah,
If you
yeah.
were like running an old mom pop shop and you had like your wedding photos up on a wall and somebody came through,
Hmm.
how would you know? Unless maybe they made a funny face at it and you happen to notice it
Yeah,
or something.
yeah. Another great stat in Google Analytics is goal completion percentage. So you can just see how many times you're actually
Hmm.
getting your goal, which is an
Yeah.
email from uh, traffic
For
coming
me, I
through.
have them on an email. I also have them if they visit like my quote page where they might like. I want to know that as well
Yeah,
as if they emailed me, so I know like about how many times a month people are interested in maybe clicking on the button, and then how many actually do.
yeah, and it can be kind of manipulated by your website too. So like one
Hmm.
thing I noticed is my goal completion percentage like skyrocketed up to like 6% after I took the pricing off my website. But then I didn't actually book more jobs. But then when I put the pricing back on my website, it goes down to 2%, but I'm booking the same amount of jobs. So if you're so basically, I realized that I was saving myself just some emails like pointless emails to an extent. So I think you got to kind of interpret the data and figure out like why this correlation is there and stuff. But
Yeah, I think that
yeah,
Google Analytics is definitely a good tool that you can use for photography that you might not think of maybe first off. I think
yeah,
another really good tool that you can use is the social media photography sites like 500 Pixels and Flickr, especially Well, both of those have a
Yeah,
way to
yeah,
track your stats, so you can see which pictures are more popular with people, which ones get the most likes each day, stuff like that. And then
yeah,
500 pixels takes it further, and it shows you like which equipment you use to make those shots and stuff. If you keep that data turned on,
yeah.
I don't share that stuff.
Yeah, for sure. So it could help you maybe pick out like a portfolio image or kind of
Yeah.
let you know which one was resonating the
Or
most.
what lenses all the people who like you liked
Yeah.
better than maybe and might be different than the one you liked. Like you were like, oh man, last season I made a killer season on my 35, but everybody else was like, nah, your 50 pictures were better.
Yeah, if you're going into photography or a photography business at least, kind of blind, then it's just a lot more stressful. So I think a lot of this stuff kind of helps you take away your artist brain a little bit and be like,
Yeah, it
yeah,
gives you
like
like kind of like a more focused
yeah,
line that you can go on. You're like, okay, well, this isn't working as well as this was working, and I
yeah,
can see it from my past stats. So maybe I should go with that instead of maybe what my instincts are on this particular issue because I have this much data. Like I have so
yeah.
much information to tell me which way to go.
Yeah, but I think at the same time you got to be a little bit careful about the platform that you're looking at the data on too. So, like Instagram, they switched their algorithm, and
Yeah, right.
yeah, so when that happened,
It's hard to know if it
it's
was like you
yeah,
being less popular or them just showing you to less people,
yeah,
kind of thing.
exactly.
Like
So
it's not consistent like you would normally expect.
yeah, so yeah, I think when it was chronological, it was a good barometer of what pictures clients might like on your website. But
And
now
like
that
how
it's
you were progressing on social media over time.
yeah, for
Like,
sure. But yeah, once it kind of switched and Facebook did the whole Facebook business thing to Instagram, then it's kind of not really the greatest representation of like what images I might pick out. But I remember maybe 2 years ago, like if I got 300 likes on this image or whatever, I'm like, oh, this is like a good barometer. I should test this image more and see how it's doing, on maybe an ad or whatever else.
yeah,
But
exactly. Because yeah,
yeah,
sometimes those will translate to good ads, and that's another really good segue to make is like the data you can get out of Facebook ads and
oh yeah,
Instagram ads and stuff about what pictures and Pinterest ads for that, of what pictures like are resonating with your brides or with your couples or with your subject, whoever that might be. Because then maybe you should shoot more of that to help keep your business running well.
yeah. Once you have a good converting image, then maybe you can shape your style around that a little bit, or be like people click on this more. So some of the data things that you get back in a system like this are click through rate. What else here?
The click through rate is really, really powerful all by itself,
Yeah,
especially if you're not so much on the Google ads, but on the Facebook and Instagram ones where they can see the picture, because then
yeah.
like this picture worked or it didn't.
Yeah, and pretty much every ad platform will let you know your like goal completion percentage now if you just set that up
Right, but
within
it
your
gets really
website.
granular. Like it'll tell you like if this person was using an Android phone or if they came from a Windows computer or something.
Yeah.
You're like, I don't know, I would
Well, I
want to know
mean,
that, but
yeah. I
there's
mean,
so much data out
yeah,
there about us.
yeah. I think when I first started, my my mobile versus desktop data was pretty weighted towards desktop, but now I think 70% of the traffic I pull in on my website is actually
Yeah,
mobile.
everybody comes in on
Yeah,
their phones now. Mine's more than that. Like even a
yeah,
few years ago, like I optimized it all for mobile because just by looking at the data, I just
yeah,
knew that most of my users and would be customers are coming from their phones. So it's
yeah.
like
Same
I
here.
want to kind of cater to that experience more and try to make it more mobile friendly so that I can book more jobs and more people are gonna because if that's what they're coming in, it makes sense from a business aspect to do that to help.
Yeah. It influenced my home screen when I saw that data shift a couple of years ago. So,
Mhm.
yeah, it's like verticals. Maybe 5 years ago, horizontal images would work better because people are looking at it on desktop. But then
Right.
going to like a vertical format, you're like, oh, okay, like this actually people can see more of the
Right.
picture on their
Yeah,
phone.
I
It's
deliver
bigger
more vertical pictures than ever, and the reason that I know that is
because of the
because
data
of
there.
Lightroom. Yeah, the
Yeah,
data in Lightroom. It's fantastic how much
yeah,
information you can gather from all these tools. Another one that's also worth mentioning from the business perspective is Moz. Moz is a super cool tool
yeah,
if you're running a photography business and you're trying to weight yourself against some local competitors. Like you can put yourself into the tool along with some people that you're trying to maybe outpace in SEO or like the best guy in
yeah,
town that you're trying to rise up to. and then it'll compare your website's SEO and your website stuff to them. And over time, you can see what changes you need to make to try to make your website more powerful than the other websites, so you get seen more, so you can book more jobs, so you can be a more successful photographer.
Yeah, competitor analysis is very powerful. So one thing I did when I first started, this is going to sound a little bit goofy, but so this is
Oh,
like six,
okay.
yeah, 6 years ago. I went to like the biggest wedding photographers websites,
Yeah,
and
right.
then I took all the copy and their abouts, and I was like, I wonder what people kind of resonate with more. And these are, people who are obviously booking, people charging a lot of money and stuff. And then I took maybe 10 photographers, put them into like a word counter, right? Like all the text from their websites into a word counter. And then I saw themes like story pop up a lot, or,
Mm.
just like certain
Just to
words and
kind of
stuff.
help you write your own, so it was more based on like a feeling that they projected, sort of thing.
Yeah, a little bit. So, yeah, like if I saw the word story come up a lot, then I'm like, oh, people like to hear about, the like stories about people, or they like to look at it as a story. And then I'm like, how can I put my own spin on that? What can I, say myself to kind of
Yeah, are you a
resonate?
storyteller?
Yeah,
I think we're
yeah,
all
something like that.
storytellers.
But yeah, so I mean that's helpful. You can take some text and then to see like the most used words, and it'll
Yeah,
kind of
no,
point
very
you in
helpful.
into
And
some
you can do a
directions.
similar thing like with Google Analytics with your pictures.
Yeah, yeah. I think numbers can kind of stress you out sometimes too. So I think we're talking about a lot of this stuff, but a lot of the time we can be like, I know myself, I can be too obsessed with numbers. So if I'm looking at Instagram likes too much or something, then it's gonna kind of deter me
Or
from
if like you're
enjoying
comparing
everything.
your current number of likes versus like a picture you had in the past, and you're always trying to like make it increase, and then some
Yeah.
pictures just don't do as well, and then it
Yeah.
gets you agitated, and you're like, why am I not as good of a photographer as I think I am? Well, what's happening? And it can really help like wreck your ego in a
Oh, for
way.
sure. Yeah, I think maybe some healthier ways to look at numbers. Well, I don't know. It's like, so like if you make a YouTube video and it gets 5 views, does that mean that you'd made like the worst video ever? Probably not. I don't know. It
Maybe you
could.
just didn't get to the right audience, or maybe
Yeah, maybe the keywording wasn't good, or maybe it's
maybe it's an
funny.
oversaturated market. Like you're just talking about something that so many people are already talking about. That doesn't make a
Yeah,
blip.
yeah. But yeah, like I think it's important not to get too wrapped up in the numbers, just because it can discourage you a little bit.
Yeah, and then you might just stop doing it. And if you already
Yeah,
have the forward momentum and you're putting your heart into it and you like what you're doing, maybe you're on the right path. And maybe the data doesn't quantify that, and you look at
yeah,
those numbers and you're just kind of go off blind faith. But
yeah,
sometimes data can be evil. Like
yeah,
sometimes it's not the most helpful way to look at things. And especially that's my creative mind is always like, no, no, no.
yeah.
We could
And
do
if
this
you're
better.
comparing yourself to X photographer because they got so many likes, and then you're getting so many likes, you don't actually know how they're getting those likes either. So
Right,
yeah,
exactly. They could be getting those likes from some robot in India or something. Like there's a whole
yeah.
bunch of crazy tactics that photographers use to be bigger.
Yeah, but if you have more followers, it does add to your credibility. So it's kind of
Right.
a slope there.
And
So
also you have to
yeah,
like realize what's important for you and try to set goals that are realistic for you and not compare yourself. Because if you use the data to compare yourself against other photographers all the time that are doing better than you, that could be a tool, it could be an asset, it could help you like progress. But most of the time, you're just gonna feel disappointed. Like I'm not reaching that goal. I'm not doing as well as this person. So I think it's better a lot of times to make a realistic goal for yourself and then use the data to help quantify as you get there.
yeah, for sure. It's kind of like going to the gym or something. So if you go to
Yeah,
the gym, I think
yeah,
a
exactly.
realistic goal, rather than adding 20 pounds a week to your bench press, is going to be
Right,
like add one plate, add 2.5
right,
pounds every time, and it's going to build up
right.
over and over and over.
Exactly.
So yeah, I think it's helpful to look at these things in longer terms, rather than don't use it for like instant gratification or stuff like that. But
Yeah, and sometimes like you could
yeah,
just use data for week to week and not realize like, okay, in between this week and that week I only got marginally better. But if you look at it longer term, you can realize like over a
yeah,
year a large difference is made. Like a lot has come to be over repetitively doing. So yeah, sometimes you can use the data as a tool, and sometimes it hurts you. Sometimes it just frustrates you beyond belief.
Yeah, yeah. Have you? So I know we talked about like Flickr and 500 pixels maybe influencing some pictures for portfolio and stuff, but
Totally,
yeah,
totally.
have you used data in any other ways to kind of influence what pictures you serve to people, or like the first picture on your website or anything?
Yeah, so I'll do something like that too. Like if they don't have a lot of traction on, and generally I won't use Flickr and 500 pixels as much for that though, because I feel like those sites are more,
For
yeah,
photographers?
they're more photography driven,
Yeah.
while Instagram or Pinterest or Facebook are more like clients, customers who are coming to me. So I want to try to appease them over the photography crowd, just so that I book more jobs on my website and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But but for Flickr and 500 pixels, I want to put up the best pictures that I feel like will be the strongest there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I definitely do it differently. But yeah, I will. I'll definitely look through what was popular on Pinterest and Instagram, and I'll use those on my website for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I think. Are you scared to repost images? Like, I feel like when I first got into photography, it was like I never want to repost the same image like twice somewhere because I was like this is like fake. I should only be able to post this image once. You know, it's like
Well, that's
it was
interesting. Yeah,
yeah
I've never really thought of it like that. I kind of think of it like this: like, let's say Jimi Hendrix has a bunch of songs, but he has like 5 or 6 that people really, really love that he plays over and over and over again.
yeah
And some of my pictures are like that. Like people like to look at them over and over again, and they get more looks and they get more views and stuff than other pictures. So those are the ones that I tend to repost, and I just think of it as like a syndication. You know, it's like reruns.
yeah
But yeah, I never think of it as like the wrong thing to do.
yeah. I've started batching my social media, so I'll shoot 20 weddings before I post those on like Instagram or
I mean, you kind of have to, or else you could just fall into like a black hole of social media all the time. Like if you don't
Yeah,
set
you're
it
just on
up
there
to
too
kind
much.
of constantly do it, you'll just
Yeah.
you'll just eat up your life on that thing.
Yeah, so yeah, nowadays I'll take like a couple of days and just do it all at once. I'll shoot the whole year, and like I kind of had this misconception that clients were gonna be like, "Oh, where's my photo on Instagram?" But I just like
Right.
I just let them know. I set the expectations. Like I typically just batch all my photos every 6 months or every year,
And then you have like 2 days where you drink like way too much coffee and you're just like writing over and over and over again, like really like nice
Yeah.
emotional like titles and descriptions and stuff about your photos.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
so you can put some
I
more
hear ya.
time into it
I hear
rather
ya.
than just like putting their names there.
Yeah, because when you're in the wedding season, you're in the thick of it.
Yeah.
You don't really have time to be doing that. You're just like getting out for the next gig.
Yeah, but in the time, like sometimes I'll like this year I finished my season and I was like, oh man, like I'm not quite ready to do my batch yet. Like I want to let these images sit with me a little bit. I feel like the longer you let the images sit with you, the better perspective you have on them, and which ones might be your best or which one might be like more interesting or a little bit different or whatever else. But in the time that I've kind of waited to start like posting some of this work from this year, I actually like went back and just reposted some of my most liked images from like 2018.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's not really a drop off.
You know what I actually do is I take all the stuff. So like every time I finish a wedding or whatever, I'll go back through the wedding and I'll look for all my favorite pictures from that one
Yeah.
that I want to post on social media or something, and I'll pick like, I don't know, 5 or 6 that are kind of like pictures that I always do that are kind of like in my style, and then I'll just try to pick some really weird different stuff that I don't normally put up there just to see how people might react to it, and then I'll export them then. But I won't actually come back through and do what you're saying till later in the year. But then, so like that way they're fresh in my mind when I took them, and then that way.
Yeah.
But later when I come back to repost them, I'll spend the time doing those extra steps. I think that really helps, though. You really have to match that kind of stuff. Anyway, that's way off the data point, though.
I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I think comments. What do you think about likes versus somebody actually taking the time to make a comment? Is somebody?
I mean, I prefer to have comments because then at least you know like what people are thinking.
What does
about
the
this.
data say about a
But
comment?
I
Versus
feel
a
like likes can be automated a lot easier. There's a lot of robots that can do stuff like that, especially on social media. So like a like is harder to tell if it was real or not.
Yeah.
But comments are usually pretty sincere or somebody that really likes or dislikes you.
Yeah, I think So I feel like likes in the data, it's more based off of how many eyes it got to or whatever. So if you use the correct hashtag, then you got X amount of likes because it was
Right.
yeah. But then
If
if
you tagged it
people
right, and people are going to see it
yeah,
over
so I
time.
think looking at comments as data, it's saying this is really engaging. People cared about it enough to actually like type a
Yeah, to
comment
say
and
something about
yeah,
it. Like
yeah, for
either
sure.
you're great or you suck.
Yeah, or sometimes if it's a polarizing image, you might get less likes and more comments and
Yeah,
stuff.
that's the thing. Sometimes
Yeah.
like I've had some pictures before that I put up that I was oh, this picture's so artsy and cool, and I post it, and like in the morning I'll go read the comments on it the next morning or something after I posted it, and people will leave comments like, "This is so below you. This is so
Oh
not
man,
as
that's
good as
harsh.
what you're
Yeah.
capable and stuff." And I'll be like, "Oh man, I totally gotta take that picture down," and I will too. I'll take it down, and I'll feel all horrible about my photography skills for a couple days.
Yeah, yeah. I guess the biggest thing I've learned from YouTube comments in particular is that if somebody is going to actually write a negative comment, then I really shouldn't take the time of day to look into it or analyze it too
No,
much.
exactly. You gotta
Yeah,
just kind of smile and let it go because not
yeah,
everybody's gonna like you.
yeah, for sure. The weird thing about YouTube comments in particular is like it's like people might be it's like anonymous people commenting on you, so it's like what people would say behind your back if you
Right.
like
But
never
they're
saw.
kind of still saying it to your face. And they're like, yeah,
Yeah,
whatever.
well, you can just see it. Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
yeah, but yeah,
It's okay though. I mean, I feel like if you're creating stuff, you're kind of putting yourself in a position of judgment. People are
oh
going
for
to
sure.
critique you, and
Yeah,
especially
yeah.
if it's
If you
something they
if you
do.
have the audacity to say like I have something important to say about this, like you have to be open for critique. You have to be able to like kind of separate yourself from that a little bit if you want to keep on creating and not get too discouraged. I've
But I
definitely
feel like
learned.
it's a little different now.
Yeah.
Like in the old days, you could be an artist, and maybe some people would see you at an art fair or something, and they might talk a little like, "Oh, this guy's not very good" or whatever, and you wouldn't hear any of that. But now,
Yeah.
because the data is all there, or you could get
Yeah.
oppositely, you could get a lot of praise. Like I have lots of pictures where people just go on and on about how
Yeah.
much they like it, and like that makes you feel good. So there's two sides to it, but like knowing that data and having comments and likes makes makes us photographers who have like maybe more of a smaller ego stressed out. Like it's very easy for us to take that negative feedback and feel like we're not good at what we do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. There's some other ways you can measure your progress in photography. So we talked about looking at things on like on a longer term scale. So if you look
Yeah.
at data like over time, it definitely does help you get some rationale on that and be able to not emotionally react to oh my god I posted this and I got 5 likes or something.
Right. I'm never gonna do
Yeah,
that again. Like you don't
yeah,
want to get into that mindset. You want to
yeah,
just like, all right, well, what can I do better? I'm gonna keep trying. I'm not gonna give up. I'm gonna just keep making more of this, and maybe I'm gonna
yeah.
keep getting more negativity. But it's good to have the data and be able to use the data to realize that it is helping you progress over time.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I mean, personally, I try not to measure my success based on like data on likes or
Right,
comments
or
or something.
comments on the internet. Like
Yeah,
that
so
doesn't
yeah, yeah, it
make a
definitely
difference.
makes me feel better to be like, oh, did I try something different this year? Did I do a
Right.
good job photographing this wedding? How happy are
How
my
did I feel
clients?
about what I was doing? Did I put like all my effort into it? Do I feel like I'm trying my best? Like that's the kind of
Yeah,
stuff
yeah,
that I mostly judge myself on. And then sometimes like really great stuff will come along. Like you'll do an article for 500 pixels, or you'll be in Zeiss's campaign or something, and then that helps validate it. And all those comments and stuff doesn't matter anymore because you're like, oh, I am good at this, and I have validation now because
yeah,
this external source said it. So like I feel like that's really a very valuable thing that you only would get if you kept doing it over time. If you were going to give up right away, you would just fizzle out. That would be it.
yeah, for sure. I think another thing that isn't necessarily good to validate yourself on is how much money is coming in either. So
Hmm.
as a freelancer, you're gonna have 1 year where you make a lot more money, and then the next year you might not make quite as much, or other way around, or you might go up. But then what I've definitely found is that if I in quantifying myself on money, basically, that it's easier for me to get discouraged. So um, yeah, I'm not going to go into to exact numbers here, but there's been years where I'm like, where that was so important. I was like, this is, and it's appealing because it's so quantifiable. But um,
And when you have more money, everything's easier.
Yeah,
So
to an extent. I feel
there's a
like,
way that you want it, but at the same time,
yeah,
like you don't really need it.
yeah. I think it's enough to be making a living. That's kind of it. And then like, I think one thing I've been quantifying recently is how much free time do I have? How much time do I have to think
Right.
for myself to explore this or think about this? So as a freelancer, sometimes you might not make as much money as the year before, but then if you have more free time or free time to work on this personal project, then in that sense you're getting success there. But
And yeah, and you get a
yeah,
lot of fulfillment out of that if you're doing something that you really enjoy on the side. That's like basically like sometimes I'll have seasons like that where I think of like all my freelancing and hard work that I put into wedding season allowed me these months to work on my personal project that I wouldn't have been able to do if I had like a normal desk job. Because there's no way I could ask a desk
yeah.
job for 3 months off to go do some crazy personal art project, you know?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and if you're at a regular job, then your income is kind of consistent unless you like get fired
Right.
or you get a raise
Right.
or whatever. So I think as like a freelancer, you're not going to make, you might have, there's a good chance you're going to make less money like the next year or a little bit more or whatever. So I don't know, just to keep encouraged and stuff or not be discouraged, obviously.
And I
You
feel
know,
like that's another spot where you can really use data that we haven't really touched on is like tools like Chase's website has and like mint.com, and you can use all that to quantify how much money's coming in and how much you're spending on expenses and stuff so that you have the data to know this is how much money I need to live, this is how much money I need to pay for all my photography equipment, and then you can use that data along with your Google data to see how many gigs are coming in to see how things are going to work out, and then you might not be as stressed if you get slower or you're not booking a season as much as the previous season.
yeah.
And that's
Budgeting,
a great
yeah,
data
budgeting
tool.
as a freelancer is really good. You can basically look at it and be like, oh, I need to make X amount this year, and so you can be less stressed. So, um, if you booked, I had one year where I booked, I think like 36 weddings, and I was at an excess, right? And
Yeah, but not in time. You must have been crazy busy.
yeah, definitely. And then, but then the next year I didn't. I booked like 31, right? And so I'm like, oh man, like this sucks so much. But in reality, I was at an excess. I didn't need to be making that much money. So
Right.
yeah, so it's kind of like that. And then I think another way to maybe look at things as a freelancer too is like how much time or how much or actually what I'm trying to say is like if you worked one job, is that going to cover like your month of expenses? What is this going to do? Like how much are you
Like one
working?
photography gig, like in a wedding sense.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, if you work a big job, say like, is this going to cover like 1 month of expenses or something? And then I think that's a really
Yeah,
good
I
way to
think
look
there's a
at it.
lot of different ways that you could budget it and figure it out. But if you have the data and you have a way to
Yeah,
access it and know where you're spending and what things cost, then you can use that data to project what's going to happen with your photography business and how much you need to save and how much you got to save for taxes
yeah.
and how much gear is going to cost, stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure. Or you could look at something like a wedding album, and it's going to say this is
Right.
going to cost me $400 to print, and is it worth it to actually add it to this package, or is it not? Stuff like that.
Yeah,
But
really helpful. And like that's another good thing to know is like with
yeah,
the money is, am I gonna have 10 albums at the end of the year? If so, it's gonna cost
yeah,
me $4,000. I gotta think about that stuff. So
yeah,
having all that data is really helpful. Run your
yeah,
business and do photography.
yeah, for sure. Well.